In Matthew 20:28, Jesus says that he, as the Son of Man, came to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Scholars have argued for centuries who gets the ransom payment. Was it God or was it the devil? The idea that Jesus' death on the cross paid a debt on our behalf is integral to Christian belief. The big question is, to whom was the ransom paid? We subscribe to most of the ransom theory of atonement. It was a theory in Christian theology as to how the process of atonement in Christianity had happened. The theory teaches that the death of Christ was a ransom sacrifice, and it's usually said to have been paid to Satan. Yahweh's law to Israel stated, "Life will be for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot." Deuteronomy 19:21. Men of faith from Abel onward offered animal sacrifices to Yahweh, in awareness of their sin against him, and the need for redemption from the consequences of that sin. Yahweh looked upon such sacrifices with favor, and granted these worshippers a good standing. Nevertheless, animal offerings were at best a mere token. Psalm 8:4-8 says, "Animals could not really cover man's sin, for they are inferior to humans." Hence the Bible says, "It is not possible for the blood of bulls and of goats to take sins away." Hebrews 10:1-4. Such sacrifices were nothing compared to the true ransom sacrifice that was to come. Jesus was used for that bondage debt on the souls of humanity because of sin against Yahweh. Sin was the consequence for not observing all the laws of Yahweh. The Bible essentially says that Adam and Eve gave humanity over to Yahweh at the time of his fallen creation, and a ransom payment must have been required to get humanity back. God the Father had to pay Yahweh, his Son, a ransom to free us from his clutches. God the Father, however, tricked the God of this world into accepting Jesus' death for the ransom as a wager. The bet was simple. Yahweh agreed if anyone could lead a spotless life by all his rules and laws, then and only then would he accept a blood sacrifice from that spotless individual to fulfill the ransom demand for all. Yahweh obviously didn't know something, because he didn't realize that Jesus couldn't be held in the bonds of death. And once Yahweh accepted Jesus as the ransom, Yahweh's justice was satisfied, and God the Father was able to set us free from Yahweh's grip. Then, after 3 days, Yahweh realized he had been tricked, and for that very reason, he still has not given up all his powers. Now, speaking of Yahweh as Satan, I think he was the liar and deceiver Jesus spoke about when he said in John 8:44, "You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires." He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Some of us have been tricked into worshiping the wrong God. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, "The God of this world has blinded the minds of unbelievers, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." Then in Acts 26-18, Jesus says he's sending the disciples to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those sanctified by faith in me. God the Father took back the nations and gave the lordship to a more compassionate Son. Satan only has power when we allow it, otherwise we're living under grace in this free will status.